Now, Klonoa starred this kind of cat character, and he had like a cute sidekick. So it was kind of like anime style characters. So as you can imagine, it was a big hit in Japan because they like that kind of stuff. But it really didn't sell very well outside of Japan. In fact, in the UK, hardly anyone's even heard of it. It's a shame because it is one of the best platformers of that generation. Now, this is one of the first examples of the 2.5D games kind of subgenre, because there's 2D, 3D, and 2.5D. Um, the best examples of that would be New Super Mario Brothers, Kirby 64, maybe the Donkey Kong Country game, stuff like that. In that, it's basically you're playing in a 3D game, but it's a side scroller from a 2D perspective, so it comes together to make 2.5D. And yeah, this is one of the first examples of it. This is also one of the first more story-driven platformers, because most platformers either barely have a story at all, like Mario, or have some story but not much, like Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And this was really unique at the time, because really no one had seen anything like it. It was kind of more narrative, stuff like that. It was more of a, it had more storytelling in it than most platformers would normally have, and the characters were more developed than most platformers, because in most platformers the characters don't really have a personality. Because if you think about Mario, he doesn't really have a personality. Sonic, he's got some attitude. Yeah, not much really. Crash Bandicoot's kind of a mix of the two. So this is the first time where characters did actually start to gain personality in a platformer, from what I can tell. Except for stuff like maybe Banjo-Kazooie, where they're more charismatic. Um, Now let's talk about the graphics. The 3D bits look really good for 1997, I believe this game came out. Yeah, they're very impressive. Not as impressive as, say, Crash Bandicoot, but still good stuff. In the 2D, like the characters, they look like they should be on the NES. The enemies look like shit, if I'm honest. Uh, but overall, most people, including me, would say that this game has pretty damn good graphics. So yeah, it is pretty impressive overall. There's some nice lighting effects overall, some pretty good explosions. I mean, the explosions in Klonoa are probably better than the ones in Sonic Adventure, but more on that later. Um, so yeah, this had a really interesting gimmick. Well, I don't like to use the word, like more interesting mechanic than a lot of 2.5D games, because most 2.5D games don't really make use of the fact that they're 2.5D. In this, Klonoa makes really good use of both the background and the foreground, and you have to kind of think about both of them as you're playing the game, because you have to make use of both of them. So there may be an object in the background that will help you continue in the foreground, stuff like that. And it's a really, really well done mechanic. It's also really clever, and it's something that massively adds to the game and doesn't just make it another generic platformer, because there were loads of those at the time. Basically, Klonoa can shoot his enemies, and they kind of like turn into balloons. So you can use them to throw out other enemies as projectiles, or you can press the jump button in mid-air when you're holding one to do a double jump. And you can also throw enemies and shoot into the background and the foreground. So say you need an enemy to continue with the level, and there's one walking in the background, you can shoot them and take them in the foreground and continue with the game. And there's stuff like this all the way throughout the game. It doesn't let up. It's not like they throw some clever puzzles at the start and that's it. No, it's all the way through, and it's really clever, as I said, and really unique. It just works so well, and I don't. It's such an original idea, and I don't think it's ever been used quite as effectively as it has in Klonoa. On top of that, it's just a really fun platformer, and it's really great to play. Now, it is fairly short. I mean, there's like 6 visions, equivalent to like worlds or zones, with 2 levels in each. and then there's a final boss. So there's like 13 levels overall. So it's not very long. It's not particularly difficult. It's kind of on the easy side. There are 6 villages to rescue in each level, so that adds to the lifespan a bit more, because you do have to look for them really hard. But this isn't a particularly long game, and it isn't particularly hard, so that is something you have to keep in mind. But if you can find it on the PlayStation, it's probably going to be for a really, really cheap price, so you can't expect much in terms of lifespan. Um, but I mean, my copy of Klonoa is really starting to crap out on me. So I would honestly really recommend buying the Wii remake that's coming out. And I really can't see, considering that the Wii isn't having that many great games coming out recently, except for Punch Out, which is coming out in a few days. But yeah, highly recommended. Buy it.